Hey everyone, quick video on mind medicine. MindMed, another interesting psychedelic play and something that I've been investing in for quite a while. So, Mind Medicine is a Toronto-based company, I believe, as well. It's a Canadian-based company. It was previously traded on one of the Canadian minor exchanges, and now it's on the Nasdaq. If I'm correct, yeah, they should be trading on the Nasdaq. Again, very small company. And the reason I got into MindMed was because I'm a fan of Kevin O'Leary. So I enjoy Kevin O'Leary's stuff. I've enjoyed it for years. I like the stuff he did on Shark Tank, but I really like his YouTube video and what he does there as well. He kind of tries to come off as kind of a bit of an asshole on Shark Tank. That's his style, Mr. Wonderful. But in reality, he's actually a very sweet, decent, nice guy, it seems. And his YouTube channel is pretty popular. So I've enjoyed him quite a bit. And then one day, maybe about a year and a half ago, or maybe even about 2 years ago, I saw him talking about mind medicine and how he was talking to the mind medicine CEO at the time, JR Rahn, um, and I got intrigued in that. He's not talking about that firm anymore, which is interesting and surprising to me. And so I wonder why he's not talking about it anymore. I know JR Ron is no longer the CEO, and I know that, they have a new CEO. I think the new CEO is more involved was more involved in running like tech or biotech companies in the past, and they have a little bit more experience. This new CEO, the JR Ron, was more of a kind of an entrepreneurial type CEO building the company out, and maybe they wanted somebody more experienced. Now, I don't know, but I was interested that Kevin O'Leary was talking about this firm because I know Kevin O'Leary is very serious man. He's a very serious investor. He cares about his reputation and image, and he kind of doesn't want to give advice that is going to harm people financially. So if he's saying, I like this stock, I'm assuming there was some level of due diligence that was done on that stock before he recommended it. Additionally, Kevin has a series of funds in Canada. They're what are called O'Leary funds, and just people invest in them. They're like random mutual funds and ETFs. So with that, definitely there's due diligence. Now I don't think MindMed was in any one of those funds, but given that he's a big player in the Canadian and really a big player in the North American market, financial market, in terms of providing financial products in the form of his funds, the O'Leary funds, given that, even though MindMed may not be in one of those funds, there's still quite a bit of regulatory scrutiny on him, quite a bit of financial, legal, and generally regulatory scrutiny on Kevin, and the repercussions that could arise from doing weird, fucked up shit. The repercussions could be both real and regulatory, but they could also be reputational. They could also be just purely reputational, right? And that matters. Reputation matters. Reputation risk matters. Preserving your reputation, building your reputation matters. And so that's a real risk to him. So I assume that Kevin O'Leary, since he's talking about MindMed, he did a certain level of due diligence. Now that he's stopped talking about it, it seems he's pretty much not talking about it anymore from what I've seen. Maybe there's things that I haven't seen. I mean, I don't keep up with Kevin O'Leary like a fan. I just, here and there I see him around on YouTube and pretty much on YouTube and online, but mostly on YouTube. Um, so the fact that he's not talking about it anymore makes me think that maybe there was some new information, or maybe there wasn't the level of due diligence that I had expected. Maybe that level of due diligence wasn't done, wasn't performed. Maybe, not sure, not sure. Um, but in general, um, I still like MindMed, and I think it's an interesting company. Now, as I've said in my other videos before, I would never invest only in MindMed, and even though I'm incredibly enthusiastic, incredibly passionate, and bullish on the psychedelic space, I'd never invest in MindMed on its own. I don't know which one of these new nascent psychedelic kind of quasi tech firms are going to succeed. I don't know which one. Maybe all of them will fail, and the one that will succeed is not even born yet, right? Maybe MindMed, maybe Field Trip, maybe a tie, right? And there are different factors to consider here. What kind of backing does each one have? What kind of reputation? So, for example, a tie has the backing of some pretty serious people like Peter Thiel, who is a well-known and um, just a well-known, more serious person. And then there are companies where we don't know too much about them. So I want to have a portfolio of these companies. I want to own most of these companies, basically. I want to create my own portfolio of psychedelic companies, kind of like an ETF, but not really an ETF because I'm owning the individual shares. But I'm not betting too much on any one of these companies. Now, I'm not saying on each of these companies I'm gonna put in the same amount. No, right? I'm probably gonna put in more into a tie and Field Trip and MindMed than um, another company, maybe like Silos or Simon, and definitely more than I'll put into like Johnson and Johnson, because Johnson and Johnson is already a big market cap, and they're just moving into that space. The growth is not going to be that insane for Johnson like it's going to be for like Field Trip, right? Field Trip Health, if they do what they want to do, they can 100x, 1000x. If Johnson and Johnson does what it wants to do, it could 10x, 20x, but so there's a lot of risk, and MindMed is one of those companies. Now, what initially got me interested in MindMed, and as I've said before, don't take financial advice from people online. Again, this is infotainment, meaning that this is informational entertainment. It's meant to entertain you first, right? I'm on YouTube. And the second thing is that it's meant to inform you and help you, right? But like I said before, I don't know you. I have no responsibilities towards you. And even though sometimes general advice like this can be useful, specific advice is usually far, far more useful and far less risky than general advice, than taking general advice. So, but what I like about MindMed, and uh, this is similar to what Kevin O'Leary talked about, is that they have a portfolio of drugs. They're not just focused on one or two drugs. Field Trip, I think, only has one or two, I believe one drug that they're doing. They're mainly, for example, focused on the clinics and their app experience, and they also have one drug that they're developing as a proprietary thing. Now, all this may change in 6 months, in a year. This is just for now that I'm saying, right? We're going to dive in and do more research into these firms later on, and maybe things will change. But for now, they're more focused on a certain set of drugs, a smaller set of drugs. I think one of the largest portfolios of drugs is MindMedicine. I think they have a very large portfolio of potential drugs that are either in the early stages of FDA approval or that they plan to bring to FDA approval. And they have relationships with universities and research centers, including ones in Switzerland, I think including ones in New York, good reputable research centers and universities where they're working with them to develop new therapies, new medicines, new drugs. So it's nice having a portfolio of drugs because a portfolio of drugs mitigates your risk, you know? Instead of having one pill, you have 10 pills, maybe only a few of them are going to get FDA approved, but that mitigates your risk, right? If you have a single drug, it's an all or nothing bet on that single drug. If you have a portfolio of drugs, obviously, just like having a portfolio of stocks, you're going to you're gonna decrease your risk. You're gonna be more diverse. Now, that's just my take on MindMed here, and it's a cool company. It's just another cool company that I'm I'm tossing into my new psychedelic portfolio that I'm kind of building for myself. Uh, it's part of my next decade play. It's kind of part of my next 10 years. Um, Part of my like next big play. My last one was Tesla, and I did my best on that, but I didn't do nearly as well as I should have or as I would have wanted to. Um, I talk about that in a couple of previous videos about some of the mistakes I made on Tesla. Maybe I'll talk about that in the future. I made some mistakes, even though that direction was so strong and so good. I still managed to fuck it up a little bit, um, but not completely. Right, the direction was there, so the direction mitigates a lot of the stupid volatility that you create for yourself sometimes by making wrong decisions, by being too anxious, by being too greedy, by being too much of a consumer. So there's a lot there. Um, but this next play, I think I think maybe even better than Tesla, right? I think maybe better than Tesla because I'm seeing it quite early and I'm buying it quite early, especially now in 2022, after the last approximately last 1 year, where all these companies, MindMed, Field Trip, Atai, all these companies, they've seen their valuations decrease very significantly, very significantly. I would say probably these companies on average, the entire suite of companies I'm looking at in the psychedelic space, probably their valuations at least have halved, at least, and I might be being conservative, maybe even 75% right off the top of their valuations. So, yeah, in my opinion, these are screaming deals, right? Unbelievable, like stealing level deals, like unfair deals. Crazy, right? You have a company that's under $100 million in market cap that's potentially going to create clinics all over the world and potentially going to have psychedelic therapies all over the world and have their own proprietary drug, their own application to deliver it, and then actual brick and mortar facilities where they deliver psychedelic medicines as well. That could be a really big company. That could be $100 billion company, right? So that's 1,000x, right? 100 million to 100 billion. That's 1,000x opportunity. Again, incredibly risky, but also potentially the entire space potentially is incredibly lucrative.